When you need to send the perfect rose bouquet, only one brand can say they've been the floral authority for 50 years. 1-800-Flowers. Why should you trust 1-800-Flowers? They hand-select every stem to ensure top quality. And with nationwide delivery, smiles and satisfaction are 100% guaranteed. And right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses, we'll double it at no extra cost. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Order today at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
This is Embrace Your Inner Boldness, a podcast about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. I'm Melissa Henning-Frank, coach, guide, and founder of Becoming Bold. I help you strip away the conditioning, reclaim your voice, and rise into the power that's always been yours. Let's get right to it. Hey, thanks for tuning in. There was a version of me that knew exactly how to read a room. I could feel tension before anyone said a word. I knew when to be quiet, when to smooth things over, when to become who I needed to be to keep things steady. And this was a learned survival behavior. I took pride in being the easygoing one, the one you didn't have to worry about. And for a long time, I thought, that's just who I am. But it wasn't. It was who I became. And today, I want to talk about the masks that we wear. Not as a concept, but as something we live inside of without realizing it, and what it looks like to slowly, sometimes painfully, come back to yourself. Psychologist Carl Jung called these masks the persona, the version of us that learns how to function in the world. And Jung also believed that we don't just wear one mask, we rotate through roles, and these are called archetypes. I find this stuff so fascinating. So think of them like energetic costumes. And you might recognize yourself in a few of these. There's the archetype of the caregiver, where you say, I take care of everyone else first. Or the achiever, my worth comes from what I produce. The peacemaker, let's just keep things calm. The rebel, I'll prove them wrong. The performer, if I shine, I'm safe. And none of these are bad. But when they become the only way you know how to exist, they stop being expressions and they start becoming limitations. And when I first learned about that, something really clicked. Because growing up in an environment that felt unpredictable, to say the least, I didn't have the luxury of just being a kid. I became hyper aware. I became very careful. I became agreeable. And being easy felt like protection. So I wore that mask and it worked. It helped me navigate really hard things. It helped me stay connected. It helped me avoid making situations worse. But when a mask works that well, you don't question it. You build your identity around it. And looking back, I can see the roles really clearly now. All of them being protector masks that I'd put on to avoid conflict. I was definitely the peacekeeper, the one who kept things calm, kept things smoothed over. And I was the one who could handle things, the strong one. I was also the one who could adapt in any room. I would shift my tone, my energy, my presence, depending on what was needed. It was exhausting. At the time, those felt like strengths, and they were in many ways, but there was a cost. Every single time I chose the chameleon role, I moved a little further away from myself. There wasn't one big moment where everything changed either. It was way quieter than that. It looked like laying awake at night with this feeling in my chest, like something was off, but I couldn't name it. It looked like being in relationships where I was enabling, over-giving, over-explaining, over-functioning, and feeling really invisible. It looked like resentment showing up in places where I thought I was being kind. And that was super confusing. Because on the outside, I was doing all of the right things, but internally, something didn't match. And that is the moment where awareness starts tapping you on the shoulder. It's a quiet, persistent tapping, nagging in the background. My journey into personal development started with discomfort, as it often does for so many of us. My entire life, I was seeking to understand the chaos around me. This was my way of keeping some semblance of control in it. I was craving education on personality, conflict, psychology, communication. being obsessed with understanding why people do what they do. I was always looking outside of myself for people that I could help, or should I say, people I could fix. I was a really good fixer, except I prioritized everyone else and didn't pay attention to me. I told myself I didn't need anyone's help, so I dealt with a lot of shit by myself. Expert level people pleaser. And around 2016, I started asking questions that I had spent decades avoiding. Why do I defend and protect everyone else but not myself? Why do I keep ending up in the same patterns? Why do I feel responsible for everybody else? Why is it so hard to say what I actually need? And that was the beginning of me slowly burning that mask and turning my magic on. People pleasing didn't feel like a problem for me for a long time. It felt like being a good person. It felt like I was being thoughtful, considerate, supportive, until I started noticing what it was actually costing me. I wasn't just being considerate of others, I was completely morphing myself into what I thought others wanted and needed me to be. I was holding back what I really thought. I was saying yes when I meant no. I was making things easier for everybody else while making things heavier for me. And that realization was so uncomfortable because it meant I had been participating in my own exhaustion. And I wasn't doing this intentionally, but it was definitely consistent. And this change that I experienced didn't happen overnight. It was small moments where I chose differently. It was saying something I would normally have kept to myself for fear of conflict. It was letting someone be uncomfortable instead of rushing in to fix it. It was not over-explaining my decisions. And I can't tell you that it was easy because it wasn't. It felt weird and it felt dangerous and it felt foreign. But there's a moment when you start doing this work where you think, wait, if I'm not this version of me, then who am I? And man, that question can feel like your world is turning upside down. But it's also where possibility lives. Because you start realizing you are allowed to choose. And I don't believe that the goal is to strip away every mask and walk around completely unfiltered. We live in a world that requires different versions of us at times. But what changes is this. You're no longer unconsciously becoming who you think you need to be. You're consciously choosing how you show up. And there's a difference between adapting and abandoning yourself. And learning that difference has been one of the most powerful parts of my journey, and it's why I'm so passionate about the work I do today. Now, when you start showing up differently, it's not just impacting you, it changes your relationships. It changes how you lead. It changes what you tolerate. And in my work with teams and leaders, I see this all the time. People say they want honest communication. They say they're open to feedback. But underneath that, there's layers of masks. There's fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood, fear of not being liked. And when one person starts seeing the human behind the behavior and starts showing up more honestly and with a touch of vulnerability, it creates space for others to do the same. This work ripples out. There's a version of you that learned how to survive. Honor that version of you. That version of you got you here. You're alive. You're coming out of the fog. And there's also a version of you that's ready to live more honestly, more fully, more aligned with who you actually are. That version doesn't require you to become someone that you're not. What is required, though, is you begin to remember who you were before your world told you who to be. It requires you to feel that fear and do it anyway. So where in your life are you still performing? What masks are you wearing? What archetypes are you embodying? And what would it look like to shift, even slightly, towards what's real? I would love for you to consider that. And if you want to go deeper on this, connect with me. I have lots of programs that can help with this. Like I said, expert level. I've been there. I've done that. I pulled my way through using the bold way. So until next time, Please be kind to your mind. That's it for today's episode of Embrace Your Inner Boldness. If this stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Screenshot this episode, tag me at Becoming Bold LLC, and share it with someone else who's ready to rise. And hey, if you haven't already, take a second to subscribe, rate, and review the show. That's how we spread the boldness and keep this movement growing. Whatever came up for you today, feel the fear and do it anyway. You don't need to wait for perfect timing or permission. You are powerful. You are ready. And remember, the only limit to your boldness is the one you set for yourself. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep becoming you.
Most people overpay for car insurance, not because they're careless, but because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.